I don't want any pronouns. Don't refer to me. This sort of flippant desire to become invisible to society, disappear, has become something of an inside joke among my friend group, often paired with cottagecore or fantasy imagery. Escapist memes like this seem to be incredibly common both in the people around me and in many others in my generation. You know, like, what if we were both raccoons and we didn't have to pay taxes, just eat hot trash and lie, ooh. To take the well-trodden path from furry memes to Karl Marx, it seems clear to me that his theory of alienation under capitalism is at least part of the reason behind this attitude among us queer Zoomers. In his economic and philosophical manuscripts of 1844, Marx broaches the idea of Entfremdung, or estrangement of people from their nature. He believed that labour was a fundamental feature of human social interaction, and that through providing a service to your community, you humans could both satisfy your ambitions and strengthen your social bonds. He thus viewed the rise of capitalism as a bastardization of the natural good of labour. For example, in the before times, a butcher would be an esteemed member of the community, finding meaning through the satisfaction of feeding the community and reaping the profits of all their hard work. Nowadays, what sort of satisfaction does a McDonald's worker get from their labour? The leverage is £10 an hour, and a Karen screaming at them that she wanted a hamburger with cheese and got a cheeseburger instead. A common worker under capitalism. You aren't treated as a human, you're treated as a machine, using your Gattenswesen, or human nature, when you put on that uniform, even with all those pots and pans shouting otherwise during the pandemic. Under a system that's so atomised, where you don't know or care about your customers and yet you must always wear a smile, lest they spend less money, of course you want to escape. Everything just feels so fake, and yet the pressure to adhere to the system is overwhelming. Dazzai was a Japanese author born to an upper-class family in 1909. My favourite work of his, No Longer Human, is a semi-autobiographical novel about Abe Yozo, a young man that fails to find any happiness, connection, or meaning in the world around him. In the novel, Yozo laments his inability to find joy in society, and recounts how he tried to be a class clown to feign a sense of normality and to cope with his lack of meaning. This veil of comedy is very similar to the common ways that youth today hide behind memes to portray their own feelings of alienation. I've always shook with fright before human beings, unable as I was to feel the least particle of confidence in my ability to speak and act like a human being. I kept my solitary agonies locked in my breast. I kept my melancholy and my agitation hidden, careful lest any trace should be left exposed. Melodramatic as it sounds, this is honestly how I feel when trying to give my order to a McDonald's worker. The fright of doing something wrong, of not doing the transactions that should be done. This anxiety just shows how far from the happy interaction with the butcher capitalism has taken us. Maybe just start emo therapy, probably both. As well as this, Dazzai often references the face when describing such empty feelings, stating in the prologue of the novel that Yozo's expression was like the solidity of human life, and it was merely a blank sheet of paper, light as a feather, and it was smiling. Dazzai, a communist himself, often tried to buy prostitutes and alcohol to fill the void in his life, but was tragically unsuccessful, as a now famous and renowned writer committed suicide along with his lover, drowning themselves in a nearby canal. It is uncertain whether the society of Imperial Japan, the Western values the nation was adopting, or simply poor mental health, was the leading factor in his death and his emptiness in life. His depictions of loneliness, sadness, and alienation from society are some of the most powerful and sharp that I've ever come across. Despite some difficult themes, I'd highly recommend No Longer Human, and I think anyone with autism spectrum disorder or anxiety will especially relate to it. And hey, he's Nickam a vampire, so give that a shot too. Another artistic work that touches on this theme of alienation and desire to disappear is the song How to Disappear Completely from the Radiohead album Kiday. The lyrics, I'm not here, are rurally sung, being drowned out by the ghostly strings and synth. This song portrays the narrator of the desperate desire to be free of all the pain and anxiety that he bears. I'm not here. I'm not here. This song complements a previous track, the national anthem, where the lyrics, everyone around here, everyone is so near, pairs with the demented, frantic outro to depict the world the narrator lives in, where everyone is oppressively and uncontrollably physically close, whilst being completely disconnected from each other emotionally, leaving people with nothing but fear and dread. Now onto a minority far less oppressed than Radiohead fans, the LGBTQ+ community. It seems like queer people gravitate towards escapist trends such as cottagecore, Studio Ghibli movies, and absurd humour, while in most groups, as illustrated by the movement start, while most people are plagued by the effects of social alienation, the specific discrimination against minority groups has historically led to a greater desire to pretend you do not see it, and instead imitate a more comfortable life. Rather than escaping society, however, participants in the New York ball culture of the 1980s and 90s posed as a member of a social class they simply could not aspire to due to the racist, homophobic and transphobic social constraints of their day. Paris is Burning is a great documentary showing this. One of its most pertinent quotes is this:
"In real life, you can't get a job as an executive unless you have the educational background and the opportunity. Now, the fact that you are not an executive is merely because of the social standing of life. That is just pure thing. Black people have a hard time getting anywhere. And those that do are usually straight. In a ballroom, you can be anything you want. You're not really an executive, but you're looking like an executive. And therefore, you're showing the straight world that I can be an executive. If I had the opportunity, I could be one, because I can look like one. And that is like a fulfillment."
Strangely, a shift has taken place between generations whereby young people less often wish to serve McDonald's CEO Realness and instead opt to dream of a life as a group of abstract shapes standing outside their estranged father's house, which is valid. I believe that the greater level of class consciousness and more nihilistic attitudes brought about by climate change worry has morphed the avenues that some of us Zoomers use to joke about our own impending doom. I've seen way too many inside reviews, so I won't ramble about how Bo Burnham showed the impact of technology and social media has had on our ever-increasing alienation. But it would be remiss of me to not mention the way that apps like TikTok further boil down our social experiences into analytics and data points. Beep boop is the new oink oink, after all. Overall, it seems very clear that alienation and capitalism spurs the desire among people to seek escapism, and young people are tending towards more absurd and bizarre, yet deeply connected to nature, jokes and interests to express their emotions. This has been my silly little first attempt at a video essay. I've managed incredibly to say so little in such a confusing, rambling way. Anyway, I'll leave links to all the media over so anyone that watched can check it out. I hope anyone watching has a good day. If you comment, I'll give you a love heart and like a frog emoji or something. Bye!